One other very important dimension to planning is the fact that it helps you to create value. Remember again that the critical factor in planning is thinking. And when we sit down to identify the problem that we're out to solve, we begin to design products and services that will help us to solve those problems. That's it. We invent, we innovate, we design, we're out to solve a problem. So we create the products and the services that will do it. In fact, sometimes what you literally do is to improve on an existing product or service. Whichever way, that requires thinking and that requires planning. So some people jump into the market and they try to sell what somebody else is selling or what somebody else sold before. But that may not be exactly what the customer perceives to be what he or she needs to solve his or her problems. So there's a need to sit down and do critical thinking, strategic thinking. Planning is the key. And then this is also very important. Planning helps us to develop a growth plan. This is very critical, very important for a business. Your business has to be a living organism, and one of the characteristics of living things is growth. Your business has got to grow. You've got to plan for growth. Some people plan for their business to grow by 10% every year, some 20%, some 30%, some 50%, some 100%. Some businesses simply double in size or in profits over the space of a year. But you've got to settle this once and for all. Growth is not an accident. It is something we have to deliberately prepare and organize for. So we've got to be able to take our business from one level to the other. But you will find out that the person who sits down to plan, to calculate, to project, to evaluate what is working and what is not working is more likely to experience growth than the person who jumps out and who cannot identify exactly what is working and what is not working, which product is profitable and which one is not profitable. See that? The ability to sit down, estimate our costs, and find out whether we're making a profit or not. We need that to be able to ensure that we have a plan that will guarantee our growth on the long run. So please remember this. Planning helps us to develop a growth plan. And then planning helps us to develop our cash flow program, helps us to control our cash flow. Now, cash flow is the amount of cash or liquid funds available to a business per time. Now, cash flow is the oxygen or the blood of a business. It doesn't matter the fantastic opportunities that you have for your business. If you do not have the capacity to fund those opportunities, you will eventually lose money. You lose potential profits. That's what happens. So every business has got to have enough cash flow to keep the business running and to take advantage of fantastic opportunities to increase profits or sales. Okay, so when we sit down to plan, then we can decide what our costs will be, what our sales will be, what our profits will be, and then we can allow for some extra funds which will be our cash flow. Very important. See, we must plan our expenses, especially, and we must plan our income. There's got to be a number of items that you must sell to make a particular amount of money. And of course, there's a particular amount of money that you must make for this business to stay alive. It's important for us also to accurately estimate how much this business is going to cost. We have to have a correct estimation of our expenses. When people don't sit down to plan, they overlook certain expense items, and ultimately they are overwhelmed when they are unable to make a good profit. Sitting down to plan helps our cash flow because we are able to control our expenditure. We can decide ahead what our income will be and decide ahead what our expenses will be. Use careful planning to control your cash flow so your business can not just stay alive, but move from one level of profitability to the other. Now, planning helps us to develop a sales strategy. Listen, sales is what business is all about. Absolutely. The number one reason for business success is sales. Good sales. Whatever may happen in a business, if the business is selling, the business will stay alive. The number one reason for business failure is poor sales. Loads of businesses are struggling to survive. And the number one reason is that they are not selling enough. So, sales is not something to be left to chance. It is something that we must approach deliberately. And the starting point is planning. We've got to have a sales strategy. We've got to be able to sit down and find out who is going to buy this product. Where are they going to buy it? How much are they willing to pay for it? Okay? Who's the best person to sell it to them? It's important that we define all of that and carefully plan how best to go about selling. Sales is too important to leave to chance. It requires careful planning. So, we've got to have a sales strategy, carefully and well thought out plans for marketing and selling our products effectively. Listen to me there, viewer. If you are not selling, you are not in business. We've got to sell. And I'm saying that we need to sit down and carefully plan how, where we're going to sell to get maximum results. So, planning helps us to organize an effective sales system. We've got to have a system, we've got to have a structure. We've got to find out the best kind of employees to have in order to sell effectively. There's got to be training. We have to equip the people who are going to sell. There's got to be opportunity for us to help them resolve their issues. Very important. There are basic principles that govern effective selling. We've got to have a way to communicate them to the people who are going to sell. All right? So, we've got to develop an effective sales strategy. We have to be able to structure how people are going to sell, the areas they're going to sell to, who they are going to sell to. We've got to be able to segment the market, know exactly who we're going to sell to and how best to approach each of them. How we sell to a student is different from the way we sell to someone who is a professional or an executive. All of this requires planning, organized thinking, careful planning. Our emphasis today is on the need for planning for us to succeed in business. And it doesn't matter how small you think your business is. It may be selling bread, maybe selling potatoes, it may be selling tomatoes, whatever it is you are selling, the quality of thinking that goes into your business processes will determine how effective and successful you ultimately become. Good thinking will ultimately result in good products, good services, and good sales. Very important. We need to plan. Remember once again, most people fail, not because they plan to fail, but because they fail to plan. You need to sit down today, take a pen of paper, and specify exactly what it is you're trying to do in business. Like we said earlier on, define your definite major purpose for being in business. What's the major problem that you want to solve? And then begin to crack out the little details of it. And please, as much as possible, don't work on assumptions. Work on realistic facts. With that, your planning is likely to be more effective. Now, talking about planning, I'll never forget the research that was carried out in Yale University many years ago, the graduating class of 1948. 25 years later, that was 1973, they checked on all of the people who graduated from Yale in 1948, and they found out the 3% of the students who had plans, definite goals, and who had carefully written down all their plans. They had estimated all of the challenges they could come across. They had profiled solutions. They were ready. The 3% had accomplished between 50 to 100 times more than the 10% that had plans, some vague plans, but didn't write any detailed plans down. I'm talking about organized planning and the impact that it can have on you as an individual, but especially on you if you run a business. The people who had detailed plans had achieved between 50 to 100 times more than the people who didn't have any detailed plans. We're not talking about the 87% who didn't even have any plan at all. So, planning is the key to business success today. Take a pen and begin to answer some of the very important questions you need to answer. You must succeed on paper before you can have the opportunity of succeeding on the ground. Thank you for being a part of our broadcast. I'll be back after this break.